Hello and welcome back to a special edition of Idle Kingdom Defense. Now this is something that everybody has been asking me for. It is a definition of the stats and how the stats work in the game. Now I did have to do a fair bit of reading about the stats to make sure that I was going to give you the most accurate information. So let's go over that now. So first off, we need to really look at who our buffers are, because they modify our stats. So Luke, he increases attack by 300% for 6 seconds, and he increases the crit chance, not crit damage, by 120%. I thought that was higher. Did they change that? I thought this was 200% before. If I was wrong, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I must have been wrong. It was probably 20% each level, now it's 120%. Okay. Yeah, sorry, false alarm, I was probably wrong. And these don't really matter. Those don't really matter too much. They actually get added into his base stats. So if you hit this, they're already added in here. Okay, I'm surprised. How is his crit damage so high? 13? That's weird. Okay. Alright, and let's look at Tristan. And again, crit chance. The reason I wanted to double check that these were both crit chance is specifically because I saw something about a crit damage buff, and I was like, we don't have a crit damage buff. When did we get a crit damage buff? Who said anything about a crit damage buff? Now I'm actually curious what... Alright, I didn't realize crit damage got up so high. Christian has a 15,000 crit damage. So, this is important, and what we're actually going to do, I guess we could just look at somebody here. He also has a buttload of crit damage reduced too, so that's probably why. Crit resist. Yeah, his weapon gives him a bunch of crit damage reduced. Alright. So the way these stats work is they generally you subtract them from each other. And so first there's a hit chance. There's a minimum hit chance of 1%. There's a maximum hit chance of 99%. There is a minimum dodge of 1%, and there's a maximum dodge of 99%. The way that is calculated is it is basically it is I just reviewed this. I need to re-review it again because I don't want to make a mistake. It's honestly not the easiest thing to review. I wish it was easier. It has not been easy. Not at all. And I didn't have my place. Give me a moment to find it. You know, I really should, if I was a better YouTuber, just delete this, but I'm just going to leave this in here so you can see that I screw up in real life too. Everybody makes mistakes sometimes. Yeah, how do we do the hit rate? Huh. Oh, yeah, okay. So everybody starts out with a base hit rate of 1,000. Then it adds that 1,000 to your accuracy. So this is your, this is your accuracy. So it's 1,000 plus this, which would give you 5721, minus this, which would give you some number over 1,000, then divided by 1,000. Since the max hit rate is 99%, Christian always has a 99% chance of hitting somebody. Okay? That's how you kind of compute that. Now again, most enemies aren't going to be running around with 4,477 dodge because Christian is wearing super dodge boots. A more reasonable... I mean, the only stats in the game that we really have to compare, if you're curious, are the dragon. So his dodge is 1620, and again, you would see Christian would hit him 99% of the time. Basically, Really, your accuracy number is basically how much dodge they can have where you still hit them all the time. Okay, let's move on to the more complicated calculation, which we'll do defense penetration and ignore defense penetration. So again, a very simple formula. And the way this works is you take the enemy's defense times, well, I'm sorry, first you calculate what your defense penetration is. So your defense penetration is defense penetration minus ignore defense penetration. So in this case, Christian has 3,000 defense penetration. Or sorry, we'll just say 3,020. Sorry, defense penetration. With this defense penetration, you then do a computation of 1 minus the defense penetration divided by 1,000. So in this case, Christian's result would be a -2. You then multiply the enemy's defense by that value. So again, this would make the enemy's defense negative. And then you take the minimum. Or I'm sorry, you take the maximum of that value. So you can never, and the maximum of 0 are that value. So you can never have less than 0 defense. So no matter how much defense penetration you get, you can never reduce the enemy beyond 0 defense. However, as long as your defense penetration is at least 1,000 points higher than their ignore defense penetration, you will always ignore all their defense. This is why poison doesn't really do anything in late game. Now, I guarantee you, if you continue to push waves well beyond 13,320, the ignore defense penetration probably picks up and picks up and picks up and continues to grow. Whether or not it becomes significant is hard to say, because if it does become significant, the hero I would expect to do extremely well in that environment, assuming defense is meaningful, would be Herald, because he has built-in defense penetration of 1,500. Herald without any defense penetration should almost always penetrate defense. And to show you how low the values the enemies generally do have for defense penetration, again, we're going to look at here. And they did fix this. And the dragon has defense penetration of 405. That's actually much more significant than you think, because your castle does not have any ignore defense penetration. So your castle's defense, when it's being attacked by the dragon, is only working at effectively a little less than 60%. It'd be 59.9% if you want to get very precise. So take your castle defense, which is right over here, and that 2,300 is only at about 60% effectiveness. So important to know, but I mean, again, you can't really influence it. You can't do anything in your castle to get more defense, but you need to know that not all your defense is being used in the castle. And defense has attack and defense are correlated in a way where I have to look at the formula again. I did post it in the comments at one point, but they are correlated together. I don't know how to describe the formula that they use for the attack minus the defense, because it's not attack minus defense. It's not a flat amount like that. It is a different kind of formula. Anyways, then the last two stats of really significance are crit chance. So again, you take crit chance, take your crit minus your crit resist. And if that's over 1,000, again, you crit 99% of the time. It's the same with the dodge. You can crit at most 99% of the time. You can crit the least 1% of the time. Okay, same thing. And I assume this also applies for enemies attacking you as well. I believe these constants are set up that way. So however you do the calculation, that's how it works out. And again, you can kind of tell because of just the way these numbers are. If you go back earlier in the game, when you didn't crit as much, you can look at this. Now, how Tristan and Luke work is they effectively add 120% to your crit, which is not this number, but they effectively add 1,200 to it. So both of them, if they're both on, they're adding 2,400 to your crit chance. So again, 2400 your crit chance, and if you look at the dragon, he has a crit resist of 1620. So with nothing plus Tristan and Luke, you have a roughly 80% crit chance right off the bat. So that's why you'll notice as you get Tristan and Luke higher, everybody will basically start always critting all the time. Now again, when you come into the next stat, it's crit damage. How does crit damage work? If you successfully do create a critical strike, the minimum amount of damage you are going to do is 1.5 times the crit. But the way crit damage is it adds to this. So the minimum is 1.5, but then it will add, you take your crit damage, minus your crit damage reduce, which to me, this is where things are not jiving, but this is what I read. And that would give you, in this case, we'll round to 9,000, just to make it easy, right? Then 9,000 divided by 1,000 is another 9x crit factor, okay? So when Christian crits, he should theoretically be critting for 10.5 times as much damage. That, to me, does not seem right, but it's really hard to say because we don't know how much health the enemies have. They could have so much health, and I mean, we do have heroes doing trillions of damage. I think if you look at my King's Ruins video, one of the more recent ones, if you look at the damage here, he did 1.5 trillion damage. Now that was a 10-minute fight. I don't know how many attacks he does a fight, but I mean, that's... But I mean, his attack is about 1 million, okay? We'll round up to 1 million. So 1 million attack, Luke makes it 4 times, we'll say 4 million attack, and he's doing 1 trillion damage. If he's critting, we'll say 100% of the time, for 10 times the damage, he's doing... Let's see, 1 million, 4 million, 10 times, 10.5 times. We'll give him the 10.5. 42 million. I don't know why that took me too long. So he's doing 42 million damage a hit. At 42 million damage a hit, how many attacks could he... How many attacks would he be looking at doing in a 10-minute window? All right, these numbers get so big. 1, 2, 3. That's million. 1.5 billion. All right, so that's thousands, millions, billions, trillions. Okay, and we're going to divide that by 42. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if my math is correct, Christian has attacked 35,785 times, roughly, during this 10 minutes, okay? Let's say it was about 10 minutes, which is really, I think, 20 minutes in-game time. So that'd be 1,200 seconds. So divide that by 1,200. And that means he was attacking approximately 30 things per second. He probably attacks faster. So if he was attacking with Tristan's buff and all this stuff, I think his attack... we can look at his attack interval too. His attack interval is effectively how many attacks a second. Okay, so he makes 1.225 attacks per second, and then you take that and you basically do 1 divided by 1.225, and you get his attack interval would be every 0.82 seconds. Then you take that and you divide by Tristan, which is 3.65, and he gets to attack about every 20, we'll say every quarter of a second. Okay, so he gets to attack 4 times a second. So he would be hitting on average 7.5 things. I think that for that being a ton of Napian math, That's actually a pretty reasonable assessment. So Christian attacks 4 times a second. The battle is 1,200 seconds long. That's 4,800 attacks during the battle. The problem is he's AoE. This probably would be better done with... Well, the problem with using Gabriel or Luke on a battle like... Well, Luke actually should work better. Damn it, do I really want to redo all that math? But I think that's reasonable. I think a 10x crit is actually reasonable based on the numbers. Again, because we're looking at an attack of about 1 million. With Luke's buff, it's about 4 million. With a crit, it's with a 10.5 crit, it's about 42 million. At 42 million, again, we're looking at, for his numbers in the previous damage thing, we're looking at 35,785 damaging attacks during that encounter. If you cut that down to 1,200 seconds, it's 29 attacks. It's almost 30 attacks per second. And if he attacks 4 times a second, that's 7.5 targets are hit with every attack, on average. I think that is actually pretty reasonable for Christian on an AoE stage. That's pretty ludicrous. But I do think I think that's within the realm of reason. And let's just look at the dragon, because the dragon's the only monster we can easily see the stats of. He has how much health? 1,000. He only has 9 billion health? Well, yeah, I guess he's only level 10,000. They kind of got crazy with the health later. Yeah, so I guess he's not really a great example because he only has 9 billion health. And Christian does like 1.5 trillion damage. And I can't fight him again because I beat him once. So, I mean, but that gives you... Again, I don't think the numbers I'm giving you are wrong. And his attack speed is actually really slow, so he attacks very infrequently. So, I mean, that's my best estimation of how the stats work. So again, most of the stats are pretty simple. It's crit chance minus crit resist. You have a 1% crit minimum, 99% maximum, damage minus damage reduce, 1.5 plus that divided by plus the difference of that divided by 1,000. That's how hard you crit. And for hitting, your accuracy basically determines how much dodge your opponent can have for you to hit them 99% of the time. And defense penetration, if your defense penetration minus the ignore defense is over 1,000, you ignore all their defense. And your attack speed is how many attacks per second. So if you take 1 divided by that, that's how frequently you attack. And then if you take that value and then add in Tristan's buff, you then get to see how frequently you attack with Tristan's buff based on your current attack interval. So I think that covers everything. I am actually surprised because I didn't know that they crit that hard. I mean, I know that the set bonus for this armor is extra crit damage. And it's defense penetration too, and attack. But crit damage is really what kind of really drives your defense, especially when you're critting 99% of the time. Defense penetration just basically means unless I vastly exceed where my armor is, defense doesn't matter, which is why poison doesn't matter. That was my whole thing against poison is your defense penetration gets so large that poison doesn't do anything. And it's so hard. We can't even mathematically, that's not the word I'm looking for. We can't even really test things because of how random the game is. I can't send Christian into a battle and reproduce the results. It's just not going to happen. You know, interestingly, after having this discussion, probably what sinks... I don't think you get crit damage when you level, but what'll probably sink that is interesting. Let me see what happens if I take... Because I don't think you get... I think the only way to get crit damage is from gear and runes. I don't think there's any other way you get it. Yep. So let's just toss this on Austin. Even though he's woefully underleveled. What's his crit dam? Yeah, his crit dam is pretty equivalent. But again, his attack is so low compared to Tristan. And again, I know he's not leveled up like Tristan is. I get it. You don't have to explain that to me in the comments. But he's just not going to catch up. But I mean, again, the real problem with Austin is, do we struggle on stages where we can AoE things? And I would say no. We struggle on stages where we can't. That's kind of what sunk Austin for me. Anyways, if you do have any other comments or questions about all these statistics, please let me know in the comments. I hopefully made this extremely clear of how everything kind of interacts with each other, except for attack and defense. Attack and defense are interesting. It's technically the attack times 0.2 divided by 0.2 plus the defense divided by the attack, which is such a weird formula. I can put it in Wolfram Alpha. I'll put it in the comments in Wolfram Alpha if you want to try to experiment with that. But again, you need to remember, most of the time defense is going to go to 0. Okay? So 0 over attack is 0. 0.2 divided by 0.2, that goes down to 1, so it's just the attack. So that's about it 90% of the time. Otherwise, yes, you will get a slightly minor amount of attack reduced that will go up based on the amount of damage that's done. I just don't know how to describe that formula. But this actually is... I have reached out for verification with this from the creator of Idle Kingdom Defense Helper. I have asked him if he agrees with my assessment. So if he disagrees, I will be adding a comment later explaining that he disagrees, why he disagrees, and all that. But I'm pretty sure this nails it pretty well. Again, to me, the numbers all jive together if you sit down and do the math. You know, it's not like we did the napkin math and I said, well, you know, Christian's critting for, 4 billion damage. And you look at that and you go, you do the math and go, what? Did he only attack, 300 times in that battle we just had? Or I guess it'd be about 3,500, but still. You see what I mean? It wouldn't napkin math out correctly if I was so far off base. So I'm hoping that this answer, like I said, I'm still hoping this answers the question. And again, but feel free to question me. I'm certainly no authority. I had to kind of wing it. All that said, once again, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel. If you have any questions, please say something in the comments. I do always appreciate your questions. And thank you again. I hope you have a good day.